Thanks, Ethan. And next we have Wadah Khanfar, who until very recently was the Director General of Al Jazeera, a good friend of both Ethan and mine. And I apologize, Wadah, if you're listening to this. We're getting him up 30 minutes late, and it's a little bit late where he is. But our program ran a bit late, so we'll hopefully have 30 minutes of comments from Wadah if he can come up. He did a amazing TED Talk this year, which you can Google and look for online. And he's one of my personal heroes, and so hopefully we have him. You've got the, all right. Is there a camera here? Can you see me? Hi, Wadah. Thanks for staying up late. And we'll have you on the screen in a sec. We'll let you know.
Yes, Joe, can you hear me?
Not yet. We're connecting the audio now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Almost.
Hello?
Okay, I think we can hear you now.
Yes, I can hear you. Can I talk now?
Hold on one second. I think, and also if we mute this side, maybe then there won't be the. Okay, so. Yeah.
Yes? I can speak.
Okay. So, is there any way to turn up the light on your side, or is that difficult?
To turn off or on?
It's you got the most light on your face you can get, right? Okay. So we're gonna mute on our side. So when I go 1, 2, 3, you're ready to go. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Can you stop sending our? Okay. Go.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joy. Thanks a lot. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for inviting me. In fact, the issue of networking for us in this part of the world has gained great momentum during the last few months. Maybe if you ask anyone in this region 1 year ago, if he would have expected to see the change that we have witnessed during the last few months, he would have I don't think anyone in this region would have expected the timing of what has happened. Everyone knew during the last few years that this region is going through huge transformation. There is authoritarian aging regimes that have been ruling our countries for the last few decades. Most of us, when we were born, we have been witnessing and living actually through the last few decades with the same leaders, the same names, and the same government, same rules, and even same mentality, same system of governance. Governments in this part of the world, governments did not take into consideration the public as important element in change. They did not want to see the changes that have happened during the last few years. They belittled people, they ignored them, they marginalized them, they looked down at them as, groups of people who have no rationality, they have no will, they have no determination, they cannot do anything. However, networks, especially social networks, that have been established amongst youth in this part of the world, well-educated generation, people who have knowledge of how the world is functioning, created this kind of networks where everyone felt equal within the network. And these networks were actually revolutionary by nature because they first did not comply with the system, the game, the political game that has been dominating this region, where we have central authoritarian government and we have at the same time weak parties and opposition who have lived together with these governments for decades, and they have understood the game. The opposition are trying to do something, but at the same time, they know the ceiling, they know exactly where they should end their protest, and governments, they know exactly to what extent these opposition parties can establish some kind of protest against them. So the groups of youth who emerge through these networks play the game outside the rules that have been established. They felt empowered. They are well connected with the world. They have seen the kind of rights that other nations are enjoying. And they have felt that they, in this part of the world, if they do not do something, then they are going to live with the same rules that their parents and the previous generations lived with. Therefore, they determined to do something different. Now, the blessing here is our governments are aging. And at the same time, they are not innovative. They are not clever. In fact, they are very stupid. So what they have done, they have never noticed this kind of networking. They have never noticed the movement that is taking place among the youth. So youth has the opportunity to take governments by surprise. And governments was paralyzed. I mean, I remember that one, important official, Egyptian senior official, spoke a few days before the protest that started in Egypt in January, and he dismissed any impact that this protest could have on the regime. And in fact, he was calling upon the adults, the people, the parents, to prevent their kids from going down to Tahrir Square. What happened is, everyone was surprised, including especially governments actually, by this kind of strong movement, by the great spirit that these networks have, by the determination and resolution, and at the same time, by the way, by the diversity, because these networks were not entirely based on ideology. So we did not see only Islamists or secularists or pan-Arab nationalists participating. It was a mixture of everyone, and that gave this movement something, new spirit, that did not exist for the last 4 or 5 decades. Because during the last 4 or 5 decades, we have had clear separation between certain ideological trends. We have Islamists, we have secularists, we have pan-Arab nationalists, and we have also socialists. But we have never had a movement that includes everyone together in equal paces, not in ideological lines, and at the same time capable of maintaining unity and going down to the street in order to achieve something that was predetermined and well planned. Governments were taken by surprise. Parties were taken by surprise. The political elite, even the cultural elite, was taken by surprise. Media was taken by surprise. Everyone was taken by surprise because these guys were well structured and they used new techniques, new way of connecting themselves together. They were well connected, and they have done that for, of course, now we know that they have been doing that for years, but eventually the results appeared in a sudden and surprising way. For us in the mainstream media, when the protest of Egypt started, we did not expect to what extent this protest will take people, will take the events, course of events forward. We started covering the situation, and on that Friday, when the government actually started cracking down heavily, we realized that this is not only a protest that we have seen during the last few years, when people go down to the street and they spend a few hours and then the government succeeds in sending them home. In fact, we are in front of something different. That something different made us and made everyone in the region realize that this is a beginning of a new era in the region. That started, of course, in Tunisia, but later on in Egypt. In both Tunisia and Egypt, governments reacted the same. First, they banned the mainstream media from covering events on the ground. Our bureaus were closed, our correspondents were detained, and our cameras were confiscated. And we did not have access through professional cameras to the public. At that moment in time, we realized to what extent new media, social media, the internet activists and what I call people's media is very important in our coverage. Without them, we would have never been able to continue covering the situation, the revolutions in both Tunisia and Egypt. So we ask people through the screen to provide us with whatever images, details, and information they have. And in 2 hours, our newsroom was, receiving hundreds of videotapes and through YouTube, through Facebook, through Twitter, and we established our new media desk. Actually, we had a new media desk, but that desk was not at the center of our editorial our newsroom, because simply most of our editors would have never accepted or tolerated to have a lot of new media input in our news gathering, because they thought that professional cameras and correspondents are the right people to do things. But now we don't have these professional people to cover the story. We convinced our editors to empower our news desk with some young people who were well connected as well with their colleagues and with their friends in the ground. And they started filtering this material, classifying them, double sourcing sometimes, and authenticating the news, and then sending everything to our output. And maybe in 2-3 days on, we were able to establish a new equilibrium between our mainstream broadcasting, between our professional tools of coverage, and the new media tools of coverage. And slowly, everyone realized to what extent what is happening right now in front of us is important, and to what extent it's going to change our mentality within the newsroom in covering these stories and taking what we received very serious, because what we received was very important. Now we have almost every moment recorded and sent to us through internet. And even when internet actually was interrupted in Egypt, I think a lot of young people were able to go around it and to empower themselves with few mobile phones that are connected through satellite and Thuraya phones. And again, we continue to receive a lot of material until we were able to send some of our colleagues, some of our professional cameramen and journalists to Tahrir Square to live with the people undercover and to cover the story during the 18 days. However, the situation, in my opinion, has changed once and for all. It is impossible from now on to see a newsroom that can really cover stories, especially in the region, Middle East, without having social media and new media at the center of its news gathering. At this moment in time, more and more journalists in Al Jazeera newsroom, and I can speak on, because I have been there, I have witnessed everyday development of the story. Everyone started to realize the importance of it and started to equip himself with the proper knowledge of how to use all these tools and how to develop proper professional standards in using them and filtering, and at least trying to get rid of things that might not be suitable to be put on the screen. At the same time, people on the ground started to learn as well, started to learn how to enhance their technique. For example, take the example of Syria at this moment in time. Everything Al Jazeera puts on its screen regarding Syria, the Syrian revolution, is in fact sent to us through internet. We don't have any professional journalists belong to Al Jazeera right now in Syria because we were banned from being inside Syria. The government of Syria used a lot of techniques in order to interrupt the feed of video and messages from within the Syrian territories. So they established themselves Facebook websites, and they established a lot of accounts, and they started bombarding the net with misleading information. And they started also attacking people who are using these tools and try to confuse them. I remember in a day I received more than 30,000 messages on my Facebook of people bombarding my Facebook from. I know that now the Syrian intelligence were trying to, send so many messages, not only to me, to everyone almost in Al Jazeera, including some kind of verbal attack and insults and pictures and videos and images that are trying to demoralize people and anchors and presenters and journalists in the newsroom. So they have some kind of operation that was designed by the government to fight that. But they could not do anything because by that time people have realized to what extent government not only lack imagination and they are not clever, but also to what extent they are abrupt and they are not capable of addressing not only the new generation but everyone. So that did not succeed. They started accusing us of fabricating images and pictures and saying that a lot of things that we receive in YouTube or we receive through social media and networks is in fact has been recorded somewhere else, not inside Syria, or it has been recorded a few years ago, so it did not happen at this time. So activists on the ground started filming the images, taking into consideration some landmarks around them in certain cities in Syria, building certain squares, certain very popular places that documented physically. And at the same time as well, they tried to document the time by having a newspaper carried in front of the screen, local newspaper, with the date on it and the headline. So no one can deny that these images were taken at this particular space and at this particular time. And then the argument of the government was valid anymore. So people are learning. Governments are not learning, unfortunately. What they are doing, they are repeating the same mistakes that previous governments have repeated. Everything is horrible because, again, they have never understood these mechanisms, never understood the power of the public. They have always thought that people are incapable. They belittle them. They thought that they are insignificant. Now, people have proven that they are very clever, they are very politicized, they are very mobilized, they are very consistent as well. And they cannot be deceived. All kinds of tricks were used, but they were not able to deceive the public. The public have within them, have that kind of compass that direct them to the right way of thinking. Always I believe that the people have much more momentum and power than the elite. They have even much more wisdom than the elite. They are capable of addressing, their problems and discovering tricks of centers of power more than what centers of power themselves can do. So eventually, I think this is a grand shift happening in the region. It is not something that's going to move. I think we are long-term change that might take from 1, 2, 3, 4 years to 10 years, because now we are going into another phase, a phase of building our society based on consistent democratic atmosphere, challenging the old paradigm. Yes, people were able to bring down government, but they have to bring down some ways of thinking as well. They have to bring down mentalities that have been living not only with governments, but also within political parties and opposition. Networks are necessary. But unfortunately, sometimes after they achieve their peak of achievement, then political elite, political parties, opposition groups are taking over and start dealing with the political situation based on their particular interests. And that is, in fact, something that I think the youth should take care of. I think the movement of the youth should continue until we fulfill our dream of consistent and stable democracy. Because I'm afraid of that experience itself is hijacked. And the result of this revolution or these revolutions is hijacked by centers of power. Again, here, when I mean centers of power, I don't only mean governments, but also some old political elite that still exists within our society, old ways of thinking. So we need to transfer this momentum into some kind of political maturity, political movement that continues to generate new ideas, innovative ideas, creative ways of thinking, find new solutions, distance our societies from ideological, partisan differences that might create again a lot of conflict and might dilute the concept of freedom and democracy. Again, networking that has happened is amazing. And maybe it was, the most important moment in our history since the First World War that we are living at this time, because we have rediscovered the strength of the masses and the public, have liberated ourselves from the interiority conflict that has lived with us for the last few decades. We have been empowered with the new ways of thinking. We have transcended differences into diversity that is rich and at the same time empower people with experience and very possible. Yes, we might see during the next a lot of difficulties, trouble. We'll see what has been in Egypt during the last few days, the killing of the Kurds by the army, and you may see more than this in many other countries as well, because transformation towards democracy is not to be easy. It's not a matter of, I think we should be patient. And I think the international society as well should understand that this transformation has to take its course. When you in the West reach the that we enjoy at this moment in time, I don't think that you have done it in 2 months. You have done it over decades, centuries of social and political transformation. I think we need some time, because the people who are leading a lot of protests at the moment or political opposition, most of them spend decades in jail. They have never had the chance to understand how the political process actually is played. They have never had the opportunity to understand and to live and to experience this dynamic. It is new for them. So we need to encourage them. And we should not isolate anyone. We should not at all isolate anyone because of any ideological, because of any background that people have. There is no way of democracy in the region. And if we isolate anyone, it means that we are pushing them towards extremism, pushing them towards taking weapons in their hands and fighting back. I think we have no way but to help democracy, even if this road to democracy is going to have a lot of maybe shortcomings, maybe some kind of crises, some kinds of problems. We have to give democracy a chance and trust the choice of the public, because our people are politicized and they are very clever. In a democracy and open society, they will not choose but the right people to run their countries. We may feel that in a moment of time, this region is hijacked by people who are radicals, who have very loud voices. But please remember that the people are clever, and their choices are wise, and therefore they are going to choose the right people for the right position, even if the voices of some people are very high and very loud. I am sure that people will learn how to behave as statesmen and as politicians whenever they are given the chance to do so. And they will increase their extremism if they are pushed away and put in the corner. And I think we have to give them the chance. The international society and the public all over the world should understand this. We in this region are enjoying a momentous actually moment in our life. And if this moment succeeds to become a reality, it becomes consistent road towards democracy, I think it is not good news. It is good news for the entire world. Once the Middle East is stable, once the Middle East enjoys democracy, I think the world is going as well to enjoy fruits of democracy in part of the world after we have seen a lot of problems and clashes between the Muslims and the West during the last few years and a few decades. In the future, we hope we are going to enjoy tolerance, peace, and we are going to enjoy stability, and our children are going to live a life of full of joy, full of proper development, dignity, and they will look forward towards the future, peaceful future that we and others live together hand in hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wadah. And so it sounds like you're optimistic and that you're asking us to give them a chance. Is he going to hear us? I guess maybe he doesn't hear us. Yeah, I actually they muted over there, but um, what I couldn't make it as for those that you didn't hear because he wasn't able to get his visa. He's still applying for a visa, and when he does get his visa, he has promised to visit us here in Boston, and we will hopefully get him in slightly higher bandwidth and slightly higher fidelity, and hopefully then he'll also be able to talk about his secret project that he's been working on, and also we'll probably have a lot more data about how the things are going in the Middle East. And I don't. I think the bandwidth is a little bit difficult to do the Q&A, but I really thank you for staying up so late, and also I think the key message from you is that these kids have shown a lot of courage, and it's the first time I think that they have been able and been empowered to really feel like that democracy is actually an option. And I think the word that he was using is that they're really focused on the universal values of democracy, and there's going to be a lot of difficulty as they rebuild these democracies, but we really need to give them a chance. And Wadah is really, in many ways, a spokesperson for these people because he's been hiring them in these places when he was running Al Jazeera, and now he's working on a variety of things to really try to switch over to the rebuilding side. So I think it's kind of important also as we have mainstream media in the room. I mean, I think we have to be very quick not to judge because it's a new thing, and we really need to be encouraging everyone there in the Arab world. So thank you very much, Wadah, and good night. And hope to see you in Boston soon.